First of all, introducing myself, I'm Maureen Piggot, and I'm the president of Inclusion Europe. So, do you want to come up?
Hi, I'm Soifiane Amrani. I'm the Easy to Read editor of Inclusion Europe.
So, I thought in your introductory remarks, Kathy talked about philosophy, and your participation here today is about people working together. And the bit I'm playing is about telling stories. And I think that those three things are really important for progress. Ideas, people working together, and then telling the stories so we can all learn. And all of these things and the people who take part in them have a past, present, and a future. So I'd like to say just a few words about the past of my experience of Easy to Read, and then invite Soifiane to talk about where we are in the present and the job he does. And then I'll speculate a little bit about the future. So, the past. I got involved in this in 1994, and I claim, and unless anybody wants to contradict me, that we were the first in the UK to start working on easy-to-read policies and public documents. There were people working on ideas like the producers of Widget, who were matching symbols with words, but going beyond that to saying, how do we make complex information available to people, wasn't happening. And at that time, the Department of Health produced a policy document. It had just done a big review, and it produced a policy on learning disability. Policy for people with learning disability, I asked. And what about having a paper for people with a learning disability? And they looked at me like I had horns. And they said, I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, I don't either, but I believe that we should. Because the people that I've been living and working amongst were telling me the difficulty they had getting the information they needed for their ordinary lives. And here was a really important document that was going to change people's lives. So they said, well, so what are we going to do? And I said, well, if you help us with a little bit of action research, we'll try and find a way. And so that was how we started. And we worked with a panel of people with an intellectual disability, and we gathered people from the universities and the library service and education and the media and communications and said, help us. How do we do this? In the end, we took a 10-page document and we turned it into a 100-page one with a cassette tape that went along with this. This was 1994, so that was the technology of the time. And the first thing that happened was when we turned this complex executive summary into plain language and we sent it back to the Department of Health, there was a storm on the phone to us immediately. You can't say that. And we said, well, we think that's what you said, but tell us if we've got it wrong. Because what they had written was about preventing people with intellectual disability being born. And we had made that clear in plain language. So that was one of the first lessons. You can't fudge and you can't hide when you use plain language and you make things easy to read and understand. Anyway, we produced a document, we learned a lot along the way, and that began the excitement about how do we make information accessible. Anyway, we have to stop this storytelling or we'll never get to the end of the program. So that was the past, and we've come a long way from that time where, in fact, in some ways we have and in other ways we haven't. The principles that we developed at that time about large font, about illustrations that help to explain the complex things in the text, about other ways of saying hard words and things like community care and social services. How do you explain those hard concepts? So having glossaries of terms and that kind of thing. And we also had audio accompaniment, because that was the technology of the time, as I say, cassette disc. So that was the past. Soifiane is the easy-to-read editor in Inclusion Europe. He's going to tell you a bit about where we are now and the things that we're doing in Inclusion Europe.
I've been with Inclusion Europe since 2008. My job at Inclusion Europe is to create the newsletter Europe for Us. I also proofread all the documents and texts that we publish. Besides, I change documents.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Soifiane has a presentation. You have a slide presentation. I've just realised we didn't give that to Andy. You have it on your laptop.
I'll plug the laptop in.
We'll plug the laptop in. Sorry about that. I was so busy getting my own slides up there that I forgot about it. So people need good support.
It was great to hear Maureen's story of those early days of Easy to Read. And what I got from that, was that special message about when you use Easy to Read, when you communicate in simple ways and you reinforce messages, then the messages are exposed and visible, and there is nowhere to hide. And I think that's great. And the example that I think that makes is that if we think about people with intellectual disabilities when we're working on communication, then we make better communication for everybody. And I think that's a real key principle that stands behind Easy to Read.
So while Soifiane's sorting out his presentation, I'll maybe just talk a little bit about philosophy, because I think you chose a great logo and a great name for your project. The great puzzle, of course, is the puzzle of how to have a good life. And that's the quest of all human beings, is the puzzle of life, and how do we do that? So how do we have a good life? How do I learn who I am, what's good for me, and also what's good for other people? And in the course of that, we discover more different. But the more we know about ourselves and other people, the more we know we'll need different things and different solutions. So I think we're engaged over these 2 days in thinking about some of those things, about the puzzle of life and some of the things that people come across. When my daughter was small, one of her favourite books was called, there was a series, it was one called Puzzle Island. And there were books with lots of illustrations and little exercises where you had to solve a puzzle to get somewhere. And she loved those, Puzzle Island. And of course nowadays it's all online games, so there are different quests and puzzles to solve. But the puzzles that we face in our everyday lives, if you take instead of puzzle islands, puzzle cities, more and more of us now live on cities. And we have the puzzles of how to get around. We have the puzzles of finding the things we need, whether it's food, the basics of food, clothing, housing, or complex things like schools, healthcare, and banks. We also have to not only find them, we have to know how they work and how to do our business with them. We also like to know what's on, so we can have some leisure time and pursue our interests. And of course, we try to figure out how to stay in touch with family and friends as we all disperse. So those are some of the background challenges to the how do we have a good life and the role of information in our lives that I'll come back to after we've continued the Easy to Read story.
Your gift.
So besides, I think documents written by other organizations in Easy to Read. What is Easy to Read? Why is Easy to Read important? Easy to Read texts help people with intellectual disabilities to understand important information about their everyday lives. Inclusion Europe creates the European standards of making information easy to understand. It's available in 15 languages, and there are the links to where you can get it. Easy to read at other organizations. The easy to read logo is used to mark texts that are easy to read. And that's the symbol that Inclusion Europe uses. Other organizations can create their own easy to read content. They need to follow some rules in order to do this. This is an example of a French organization called Établissement des Services de l'Aide pour le Travail, and it's one of the important documents from the UN CRPD, and it's in French. Here's another example from the regional Spanish government, and it's in Spanish. Try to read Spanish and be on me, I can try. But, well, this is another example from the European Parliament. The draft report of the European Parliament on the implementation of the UN CRPD with special regard to the concluding observation of the UN CRPD Committee March 2016. And that's the link that you'll find this document easy to read. The Council of Europe. This is another example from the Council of Europe. It's the same document as the one before, but it's the same easy to read version. Okay, the European Ombudsman. Easy to read can be found on the website. This is an example of what the European Ombudsman is about. Spreading easy-to-read text. The use of easy-to-read has been spreading with new editors and users all over Europe. See the map. The next line. Thanks to Inclusion Europe members, we're able to support the translation of different easy-to-read documents in other languages. See Europe for us in other languages. And then this is the map. So we have United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and the thing where it says easy to read users is what is our users all over the world. This is the latest Europe for us. We do it in 6 languages: English, French, Dutch, Spanish, Romanian, and Hungarian. From easy to read towards easy to use. Easy to read is only the first step. New technologies can be made easy to use for people with intellectual disabilities. Now I'm going to talk to you about a project that Inclusion Europe are doing called Able to Include. To include people with intellectual disabilities better, 3 different services. Text-to-picture, a text-to-pictogram a simple text, a text simplifier, and an open source text-to-speech tool. Then Inclusion Europe was part of Pathways 1 and Pathways 2. The project wanted to make sure that people with intellectual disabilities can participate in different education programs for adults. You can find more information on our website. We also brought you printed copies of the newsletter Able to Include and our latest Easy to Read newsletter. Thank you very much.
So several really important things in Soifiane's presentation. So how the easy-to-read ideas and easy-to-read practice have been spreading. And the map is not complete, but it gives you an example of how those ideas are spreading. And the tagging of it, so the use of the easy-to-read logo. And we're currently working with ISO to try and get some meta tagging so that it's easier to find the accessible material on people's websites and in content. And you can see that when it's there and it's on the home page, it's very easy to find. Other important thing is the involvement of people with intellectual disability in the production of the easy to read. It is not easy to read unless it has been edited, proofed, or in other ways validated by people with intellectual disability. And that's creating job opportunities as well as people create and evaluate the content. So we'll move on then with our, where have I got to? Equality and difference. Okay, so the puzzle, going back to this puzzle of how do we have a good life and how can easy to read and understand technologies help us with that. So we really recognize difference, we're all different, but we also all have equal value and should all be equal in achieving our potential and our aspirations. So Max here, oh, he's lost his arm, that's my drawing. Sorry, Max. Max plays wheelchair basketball, and Giannis there is a runner. So they're both very fast and good at getting around. And then somebody puts steps in the way. What happens now? Giannis can proceed, although those steps are pretty high. But Max has got a problem. Now I've given Max an engine and level ground, so I don't rate Giannis's chances. Max is going to overtake him and go. So just getting us thinking about equality and about advantage and disadvantage, ability and disability, and how technology and the built environment and other aspects around us can change those equations and can change who wins the race, who gets there first, who has the advantage. Going back there to Maria and Tanya, Maria's a reader, loves reading, good at books, finds lots of information in books. Tanya has a smartphone and can look things up. Tanya can't read, but with other ways of searching, using voice, she can find information equally, possibly better, than Maria. And equality, of course, is what the puzzle project and what we're interested in here. So it's equality in the world of information and communication technologies. And this is an example of easy to read. And this is the Bundestag. And that's their easy to read version of their material. And the link to that is on their home page. And if people are going to do easy to read, that's the way we want them to do it, is to make it accessible from the home page and to really embrace the idea of making your information accessible to people with intellectual disabilities. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, but we can do better. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to manage the complexity. We've got wonderful technology with the development of computers. For the first time, we have technology that could be to people with information and understanding difficulties, what the wheelchair is to the person with mobility difficulties. So for the first time, we've got a way of helping us all to calculate, to handle information, to find things, to put things together. So how do we use that? But it's very complex. I mean, I don't understand this. This was something I found to explain the semantic web. What we're trying to do is conquer complexity to make the world more accessible. And this is about it going into the machine, rather than me struggling with the interfaces and with typing. The machine knows more about me, adapts to my needs, finds the information that I'm looking for. So if in my calendar I have an appointment with my dentist, followed by a trip to visit my auntie, I get the information I need about the bus I need to catch to get to the dentist appointment in time. The maybe phones my auntie to let her know I'm coming and at what time I'll be there. So the information is handled by the machine by searching for what I want based on what it knows about me. So our quest for the future is to put the complexity into the machine so we don't have to worry about it. But the important thing is that we're still in control of it. So we want those machines working for us. And as you can see, I love gadgets and devices. This was a visit to the Science Museum in London, where we saw where we are with robot technology. So the kinds of things that are happening in the world of technology that have potential to equalize the receiving, understanding, remembering, combining, communicating, storing and finding, updating and learning, which is all the processes that we do with information. We've got more computing power in this device here than they had when we put a man on the moon. In the technology of the 1960s, it would have taken a city block of buildings, multi-story buildings, holding big mainframe computers to process what this tablet can do. So we've got huge potential in the power of our hands, but we need to make it work for us. And we need to make it work for people with intellectual disability, and they don't have the loudest voices. And that means we need to add our voices to those people with intellectual disability, to demand that there's a rights framework that drives the technology in this direction, that there's anti-discrimination legislation that says you must build in access, and that there's research to find the new solutions. And all of that needs to be done in an inclusive way, so that people with intellectual disability are telling us what they need and are influencing the design and the development of the technologies. So how do we do that, and how do projects like yours? And this is what you've done, in fact. I mean, congratulations, you've brought together those communities of people with intellectual disability and people concerned about the rights and support of people with intellectual disability with the people who are developing the technological and conceptual solutions. So that's what our next 2 days are about. How do we use that power of artificial intelligence, the semantic web, the huge potential to personalize and store profiles, perhaps robotics, self-programming devices. But all of these things are just gadgets that don't mean anything if we don't come back to that question of a good life and what matters to us and the value of human beings and making it all work for us. So thank you very much.